Hello everyone, welcome back to Lab Leaders Edge, your premier destination for mastering the art of lab leadership and management. In our last episode, we explored how barcode technology can significantly enhance biobank operations. We discussed its applications and benefits for biobanks and the cost effectiveness of implementing such technology. If you missed the episode, do check it out. The link will be in the description. Today we have joining us again John Wagner, who is an expert in barcode technology and lab operations space. Welcome back to Lab Leaders Edge, John.
Great to be here, George.
Let's do a brief overview of different types of barcode technologies available.
Sure thing, George. So there are various barcode types available, each with its strengths and weaknesses. First, we have 1D barcodes. These are linear codes like code 128 and UPC codes that you typically find on grocery products. They're best for situations where only numeric data needs to be tracked. They're simple to encode, but can easily be damaged and have limited data storage. One other limitation of 1D barcodes is that they need to be fully visible to scan properly. So if any part of the barcode is damaged or obscured, the sample might become unscannable. Then there are 2D barcodes. These include QR codes, data matrix, PDF 417, and others. They can store much more information, including numeric, alphanumeric, and special characters. They could store more data and are more resilient to damage. A major advantage of 2D barcodes is their error correction capability. So even if part of the barcode is damaged, the code could still be read correctly. On the other hand, if some portion of a 1D barcode is damaged, chances are that'll result in a scan failure.
So out of 1D or 2D barcodes, what would be more recommended for using in biobanks?
Generally for biobanks, I highly recommend 2D barcodes like data matrix or QR codes. 2D barcodes occupy less space and can encode more data than 1D barcodes. They can encode critical information like sample ID, collection date, donor demographics, and even custom data fields. This flexibility and enhanced data capacity makes them ideal for biobank applications.
Does the size and the shape of the container affects the selection of the type of the barcode?
Absolutely, George. The size and shape of the sample container plays a crucial role in selecting the barcode. For example, if you're dealing with a smaller sample tubes like cryotubes or microtubes, 2D barcodes are typically a better choice. They could store a large amount of information in a compact space, which is perfect for these smaller types of surfaces. You can even place them on the top of a vial cap, which makes scanning much easier and more efficient, especially when the vials are stored in cryoboxes. For larger containers like bigger tubes or boxes, you may use 1D barcodes, but I still recommend 2D barcodes because they hold more data, have better error correction, and can fit almost any container shape, round, flat, or irregular.
Can you please explain that the SnapPEEL technology that is being used in biobanks, how it's being used and what's the advantage of doing it?
So I really like this SnapPEEL technology. It's a label that allows you to label both the cap and side of a vial in one effortless motion. So you don't need to have two separate labels to perform the same action. So in one efficient manner, you can label the cap and the side of a tube with virtually no effort.
Exactly. And when you have like 2D barcode on a small surface, like on top of the vial or on the bottom of a matrix tube, for example, then there's not much information to have human readable to put it in there. It still be possible, but it's very small amount of information that can be displayed as human readable. Versus if you have a 1D barcode on the side of the tube, you would have significantly more information that can be displayed. And from that sense, I think that makes a good idea to use that type of technology for identifying the vials. John, let's move on to barcode implementation. If Biobank decides to implement the barcode technology, what are the steps to move towards that implementation?
Certainly, implementing barcode technology in a biobank involves several crucial steps to ensure a smooth transition and effective integration. Let me walk you through some of these steps. The first thing you need to do is to map out your current sample management workflow, from sample collection to processing, storage, and retrieval. Identify where barcodes can improve your processes.
John, and by mapping the workflow, you mean looking at every step of sample processing and deciding at which steps the barcode would make it more efficient?
Exactly. For example, think about sample collection. If you're writing on sample tubes by hand, you're at risk of the handwriting becoming illegible, especially if the samples are stored in extreme conditions like liquid nitrogen. By using printed barcoded labels at the point of collection, each sample is uniquely identified right from the start, which reduces the chance of mix-ups and errors.
John, let's move on to sample processing. How the barcodes helping with sample processing?
It certainly would help. When you move to sample processing, integrating barcode scanning at crucial processing steps ensures that each sample is tracked and that every step is completed correctly as per the protocol. This way, there's less room for human error and you can ensure a smooth workflow.
I agree. Let's move to the sample storage and retrieval. How the barcode scanning would help at that stage, John?
Implementing a barcode-based inventory system helps in organizing samples in storage. It can significantly speed up sample retrieval times and reduce the risk of misplaced samples. I'll give you an example. If you assign a unique barcode to each sample that encodes its specific storage location in the storage, like the freezer number, rack, shelf, and even the position on the shelf, when you place a sample into storage, scanning its barcode logs the exact location of the sample into your LIMS, and you could quickly locate the sample during retrieval.
After the mapping the workflow, what come next after that, John?
So once you've identified the areas for improvement, the next step is to make a detailed list of all your requirements for the implementation. Typically, you need labels, a label printer with software, and a barcode scanner. That's essentially the three things you need, but the choice of labels, printer, and scanners will depend on your specific needs.
John, let's start with selecting labels. What to keep in mind when selecting labels?
To find out your labeling needs, you need to take care of a few things. Identify the types of containers you typically use in your lab, that you need to label. These can include sample collection tubes, cryogenic tubes, microplates, slides, and more. Each container type might have its specific labeling requirements. Besides containers, also consider the types of surfaces that need to be labeled as well. For example, is it the flat surface of a microplate or the round surface of a cryotube? If you are labeling cryotubes, decide whether to label only the sides, only the caps, or both the sides and caps. Also, determine the type of information that needs to be encoded on the barcodes. This could include essential sample details like the sample ID, collection date, and donor demographics, as well as the storage location details like freezer number, rack, shelf, and position.
What about the temperature range and printing technologies? Are those important when selecting the labels?
Certainly, those are very important considerations too. Consider the different temperature ranges that your biobank uses for sample storage, such as the room temperature, -20, -80, or -196 degrees. This is to ensure that the labels you purchase can withstand these storage conditions without degrading. Evaluate the printing technology that's available in your lab. There are 4 printing technologies that are recommended for lab use. These are laser, inkjet, thermal transfer, and direct thermal. If you already have a printer in your lab, you might want to consider labels that are compatible with the printer, or if you are looking to get a new printer, you could select one based on your specific use case. Also, there are a few additional considerations, such as if you need to relabel already frozen vials, you'll require specific labels designed to adhere to frozen surfaces, since thawing the samples just for labeling is not feasible in most cases. So you need to look for labels specifically made for that purpose.
Okay. Let's move from labels to printers. If the lab is trying to implement a barcode technology in their lab and uh, they don't have a printer or the technology available, what they should keep in mind when selecting a printing technology?
Selecting the right printing technology is just as crucial as choosing the right labels. The printer you use has to match your labeling needs, the type of labels you're using, and the specific conditions of your biobank. Like we discussed, there are a few options typically used in biobank settings. These are thermal transfer, direct thermal, laser, and inkjet.
Let's start with the thermal transfer technology. Why it is a good technology to be used in a biobank?
Thermal transfer printers are often the go-to for lab environments, especially biobanks because they produce durable labels that can withstand harsh conditions like cryogenic storage and chemical exposure. The printer uses a ribbon to transfer ink onto the label, which creates a long-lasting print. If your labels need to endure freezing temperatures like those found in a biobank, thermal transfer printer is usually your best bet.
Now let's talk about a direct thermal printing technology. How different it is from thermal transfer technology, and what are the advantages and disadvantages to use direct thermal technology in a biobank, such as like a Dymo printer, for example?
Sure, direct thermal printers like the Dymo, like it's the one right next to you, George, are similar to thermal transfer printers, but they don't use a ribbon. Instead, they apply heat directly to the label, which has a heat-sensitive coating that darkens to form the print. While direct thermal labels are generally less durable than thermal transfer labels, since they could fade over time with exposure to light, they're still a good option for biobanks, since the samples are stored in deep freezers where exposure to heat and light is not there.
Many labs already probably have a laser printer in their possession. So, do you think a laser printer can be used for barcoding purposes in a lab? And is there any advantages or disadvantages to use a laser printer?
Of course, if you already have a laser printer in your lab, you could use the exact same printer to print labels, provided they are compatible with laser printers. Laser printers are known for quickly printing a large number of label sheets, and they offer high quality and crisp prints.
So, one of the disadvantages in laser printers when using in a biobank may be that because there are too many labels per sheet, and labels used in biobanks often are small labels. In many cases, there are could be over 100 labels per sheet. I've seen over 200, even up to 300 labels per sheet. So if necessary to print only, let's say, 10 labels or 20 labels, then next time, then when there's a need to print now, you have to count, okay, where the next label starts. And if after two, three, four times printing, it becomes very difficult to keep the tab where to start the printing, right? And maybe another disadvantage that I found that uh, normally labs use softwares like word processing softwares like Microsoft Word and possibly others. And those softwares are not well designed for different types of barcodes to print, right? So, in order to print barcodes like code 128 or data metrics or some type of 1D or 2D barcodes, then it becomes necessary to purchase a specific software that can do it, which is not cost effective as well. So, depending on the use, but in some cases, the laser printer might have some advantages. Let's say if it's a clinical trial type of setup that the labels are printed in larger quantities and laser printers can provide fast and efficient printing of large number of labels in one pass, then it becomes advantageous to use laser printers. So it depends really on how they are used and what are the specific needs of the biobank. Um, and also, some labs use inkjet printers, a desktop inkjet printer. Could you please elaborate how the inkjet printers can be used for printing labels for Biobank?
Similar to laser printers, inkjet printers can produce high quality labels, especially with multiple colors and graphics, but they tend to be less durable in harsh environments if you compare them with thermally printed labels. So while they can be useful for some applications, they're generally not the first choice for biobanks.
It's a good point, John. When it comes to inkjet printers, I think one should keep in mind uh, to test the material that is used to make these inkjet labels, because there's a wide variety of materials that can be used for inkjet printing, and the coatings that they use widely depend on their characteristics, such as in many cases, inkjet labels might not resist even to water or some other chemicals. But I have seen inkjet printable labels that are very durable when it comes to, let's say, exposure to chemicals, to water, etc. So in those cases, I think it's a case by case. It has to be evaluated which labels the the lab needs to use and select the proper labels for that inkjet printer that they have. Um, One other point about the inkjet labels also, there are also inkjet labels for roll format um, printers. So there are roll format inkjet printers. And what's the difference between the roll format inkjet and sheet format inkjet printers? Can you elaborate there, John?
So roll format inkjet printers have the advantage in that you can print as many or as little labels as you like. Unlike a sheet format label, where we're all familiar with, where you have to use almost the entire sheet of labels, a roll format inkjet printer allows you to print just the correct amount of labels that you really need.
That's right, John. So, and we have to note that inkjet printing is advantageous for biotech labs from the standpoint that some of biotechnology laboratories have actual products that they supply to their clients. So inkjet technology allows them to have colorful logos and pictograms nicely printed along with the variable data and provide a nice product. Uh, One of the disadvantages is that they are also more expensive compared to other types of printers. John, now let's also explore that for a biobank to get pre-printed labels. So one advantage could be that they get a pre-printed label with their logo and so on instead of having an inkjet printer to do it. Can you please elaborate the use of pre-printed labels in a lab?
One alternative is to order pre-printed labels. So a reputable provider can print the labels in high color graphics, logos, and icons, and even variable data on demand. So consider having a label provider print the labels for you, and that really is a good time saver.
When it comes to pre-printed labels, we should mention that there are two types of pre-printed labels. One is only pre-printed with logos and graphics, and Biobank would use that label to print on them using a thermal transfer or direct thermal printer. The other option is your label supplier can do both, print the graphics and logos as well as the variable information. In which case, I think you need to have a trust in your supplier so they have the experience to handle variable information, which is used in clinical trials and it's a patient data and so on. John, what would be the best printing technology for a biobank in your opinion?
Although all these printing technologies could work in a biobank setting if used in the right way, but since in a biobank label often needs to withstand extreme temperatures, I personally recommend using a thermal printer, which can be either a thermal transfer printer like a Zebra or a direct thermal printer like a Dymo.
John, from printers now let's move to software for printing barcodes. What would be the consideration in selecting the right software?
The printer software is just important as the printer itself. A good label printing software should not only be easy to use, but should have powerful features like barcode encoding, data management, and seamless integration with your limbs. You want something that's intuitive, but also robust enough to handle complex label formats. Two popular options that many labs use are Bartender from Siegel Scientific and Zebra Designer Pro from Zebra. They provide excellent control over label design and batch printing, and they integrate well with most lab systems.
How about for direct thermal printing also? I know that Dymo Connect is also a pretty good software to use with Dymo printers. What do you think?
Dymo Connect is an excellent software for printing labels and printing barcodes as well. And I like the fact that it's available in both PC and Mac versions, and it's really intuitive to use. And I think most of the people I know really love using this software.
John, let's make a distinction between software for just printing barcodes uh, and then the platforms like LIMS that can handle entire operations of the labs and also can print barcode labels. Uh, can you elaborate a little bit the difference between the two?
Sure. The software that we described is really a dedicated software platform for printing labels and barcodes. They can print directly from the software labels with high quality graphics, information, and barcodes. Uh, Contrast that to a LIMS, which is a dedicated piece of software for handling lab information like samples and the information that's associated with it. Um, and one thing we need to consider is that a LIMS can be integrated with your barcode software so you could print your labels directly from your LIMS via the dedicated barcode software. So keep that in mind. So in summary, really the combination of the right label, printer, and software can have a huge impact on the durability and reliability of your labels, especially in a challenging lab environment like those found in biobanks.
Now we have chosen the labels, the printers, the software. How about we discuss a little bit how to select the right barcode scanner?
The scanner is an essential part of the whole setup because, after all, it's what you're going to use to capture and log the information encoded on your barcodes. The two most commonly used types of scanners in labs are laser scanners and image scanners. Laser scanners work by projecting a laser beam across the barcode and detecting a light to decode the information. They are typically used for 1D barcodes and are great for quick, simple reads in well-lit environments. However, they could struggle with damaged or poorly printed barcodes. On the other hand, image scanners use a camera to capture the image of the barcode and then process that image to extract the data. These are more versatile because they can read both 1D and 2D barcodes, including QR codes, data matrix, and others. Image scanners can also handle barcodes that are damaged or under low lighting conditions, making them more reliable for biobank operations, where storage conditions might not always be ideal.
I agree, John. The 2D barcode scanners are more versatile and they can be more useful in a biobank or in any laboratory because the containers that are being labeled are small and they have small 2D barcodes. So it's important to have one scanner that can handle both type of barcodes, 1D and 2D. But beyond that, also the 2D barcode scanners or even 1D barcode scanner can be wired and wireless. Um, what do you think about selecting one type versus the other?
So, in a biobank setting, a wireless scanner is often ideal because you might need the flexibility to move around without being physically connected to a computer or workstation, making it easier to access samples in various storage locations. Wireless scanners give you more mobility and flexibility to scan samples across different storage areas, including cold rooms and deep freezers.
And also, we have to remember that wireless scanners. When selecting a wireless scanner, you have to keep in mind that what's the distance that the signal would be transmitted, and also analyze if there are any impediments on the way of the transmission of the signal. Let's say if there are some cement walls, there are some metal structures that can interfere with the transmission of the signal, and it might shorten the range that they can operate. Ideally, it needs to be tested to see how efficient they could be for the specific location. And also, there are two different types of technology for wireless technology that they use, like Bluetooth and RF technology. And those are also important to consider when selecting a wireless barcode scanner.
I agree. Lastly, consider whether you need a real-time scanner or one that stores information and transmits it later. A real-time scanner sends the data directly to your LIMS or other databases as soon as it scans, which helps keep the information and your data up to date and minimizes delays. On the other hand, some scanners store the scanned information internally and transmit it later in batches. While both options have their merits, a real-time scanner is often more efficient for maintaining accurate and immediate data logging, especially in dynamic environments like biobanks.
So we have covered a lot so far. So let's take a brief pause here. Join us in the next part of this series as we continue our discussion with John on how to digitize biobank operations using barcode technology.